excited about the interview.
Are you in it?
That's what she said.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Better Life Project TV, the place to be to learn everything you need to know about how you can make your awesome business and life happen. Today I'm just a little bit excited to welcome probably the person who was responsible the most for helping make the Better Life Project happen, as he makes vomit faces beside me. I don't think he needs that much of an introduction. Guys, I am so excited to welcome to my show the co-founder of the Better Life Project. I love James, and the owner of Revolution Fitness. Hello.
Hello, internet world.
How are you?
Hi, we haven't seen each other for a good 2 or 3 minutes.
2.5 seconds. Yeah. Thank you for coming onto the show. I think it's really great to have you here so that people can understand a little bit about your journey, your background, and what it's taken for you to get to where you are right now. Because at the moment, guys, we are sitting in James's third gym, Mark 3, I think is what you call it?
Yeah.
Revolution Fitness
Mark 3?
Yeah.
Mark 3, yeah.
And it's about 5,500 square feet?
5.5 gym floor space and then another 1,000.5 office change rooms.
Okay. And this time, 4 years ago, you were sitting behind a desk as an accountant?
Technically unemployed.
Oh, okay. 4.5 years ago?
4.5 years ago, April 2012.
Okay. So let's, I guess, give people a chance to understand where you've come from, what you've done, the journey so far.
Okay.
Because it's been up, it's been down, it's been strategic, it's been full of surprises, but you've been on this path for 10 plus years since you started off as a powerlifter.
Yeah. I guess the story probably starts in 2006 when I did my first powerlifting competition. So I ended up in powerlifting because I dislocated my shoulder like 15 times or something at that stage. And it got to the stage where I was just afraid to play team sports because I didn't want to have to do another 9 months of rehab after an operation. So I ended up going to the gym to get stronger, to improve my shoulder and blah, blah, blah. One thing led to another, and through a series of fortunate occurrences, I met a couple of powerlifters and started powerlifting, and then spent 4 or 5 years competing nationally and internationally in the sport before real life took over and I studied in college and worked and did all the stuff you're supposed to do as a responsible adult. So I spent 4 years in college studying accounting and HRM, spent 3.5 years working at audit off the back of that. And, within a year or two of being in the real world, of being in a suit behind a desk, I realized very quickly it wasn't going to be for me. Because the whole accounting dream, and I think it applies for law firms and for the likes, is this idea that if you sacrifice 10 or 12, maybe 15 years and work 60-hour weeks and give up your entire life to them, at the end of it, when you're like 35, 40 years old, you'll get a corner office at 120k salary. And like I knew I didn't want to be a slave to somebody else. I didn't want to have to follow someone else's time schedule just for the hope of maybe making it in the end and making some good money. So I kind of randomly ended up starting a boot camp, which ironically enough was in the same gym that now lives above us here in Glasnevin, back in one of their old premises.
I remember doing one of those classes.
Yeah. So yeah, the boot camp started, the boot camp grew, and it got to the stage where the rent I was paying to run the boot camp would have actually paid for rent on my own place, which meant I would have more flexibility and more time to do stuff. So it's kind of another part of the story, so maybe you want to talk about that afterwards, but the growth of RedFit happened as a result of a random offer to run a boot camp.
Okay. And tell me, how old were you when that boot camp started?
That's a good question. 2012, would have been 26.
26.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because I think there's a lot of people who have complexes about their age, and they kind of think, oh, I'm in my early to mid 20s.
25, sorry.
20, I thought
exactly
you were
mid 20s, yeah.
Because we met when you were 25.
25, yeah.
By the way, it's really weird talking to you not holding your hands. Would that be weird?
Yeah, a little bit.
Go. Because I think there's a lot of people that have complexes about their age. They either think that they're too young and inexperienced, or they either think they're too old and it's too late. So I always like to be able to get a sense of how old someone was when their journey started, because I don't think your age is ever going to define how successful you are. And in your case, it certainly didn't. So you were 25 when the boot camp kicked off. Tell me about how things started then. And tell me why it was so important in hindsight that you grew RevFit in the way that you did.
Okay. I guess it's funny. A large part of this is Barry's fault.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, that's Barry Oglesby. He's the head coach and owner of Cayuso MMA above us. Back when I was I left powerlifting because I was just so injured. I was so beat up. I'd given so much to the sport, and I just needed a break to kind of recuperate and rejuvenate. And I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kind of went back and forth for about a year and a half.
And that's when we met.
Yeah, around that time, yeah. And during that period, I told Barry that, I was thinking about setting up a boot camp. I'd love to get into training and blah, blah, blah. Then one day on a Saturday, Barry turned around to me and said, oh, Dan is leaving. And Dan was the guy that was running the boot camp in Barry's old gym.
I remember these conversations so much.
It's scary. And he was like, well, why don't you start it, or why don't you take it over? You said you wanted to do it. And that was like, I think he wanted me to take over on like the Tuesday, somewhere between the Tuesday to the Saturday. So basically like a week turnaround. And so here's this guy I respect who's already done it himself, who's kind of saying, you've said it, so now shit or get off the pot. So kind of got backed into a corner and I went, fuck, okay, I'll do it. And then frantically jumped on Facebook and I was like, hey guys, boot camp's coming, you better come too.
Yeah.
And, within a month, kind of had 10 or 12 people there. Was fortunate that because I had such a good reputation because of all the work I'd done in powerlifting and all the posting and stuff I'd done online, that I picked up a couple of clients early.
You post online?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Not as much anymore. So I was really fortunate that I already had a bit of a following, that I had people who were paying attention to me.
There were people waiting for you to set up a gym, because even when we started going out, you were still doing your PT in other gyms and running the boot camp as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't the planned thing. Looking back, I know I obviously appreciate how important it was to be putting out content from day one, to be trying to help people, and to be doing it without the expectation of return, which was just a highly fortunate thing to have happen. So when I did open it up and when I did get it going, then it all just kind of started to roll and to run. Then, after 2-3 months, it got to the stage where the boot camp was running maybe 6 sessions a week, 10 to 12 people per session. And the amount I was paying in rent was enough to open my own gym. And so the process of actually opening my own gym was all about understanding my costs. It was all about understanding. And
this is where you, being an accountant, kicked in, because you were able to understand. He had spreadsheets coming out of his ass for like the first year or year and a half of our relationship.
Sure did.
Everything was just totted up.
And I still do. So yeah, basically what happened after that was we had the idea that, we could probably make a run of this. And I did some costing, so I tried to understand the risk involved. So when I got started, I thought about this concept of downside risk, as in what's the most I'd be on the hook for if everything went wrong. So I looked at how much my rent was going to cost. I looked at what the loan financing on the business would be. I looked at my living costs and stuff like that. And I kind of went, right, if I make no income for 12 months, what am I going to be on the hook for? Yeah. I can't remember what the number was, but I remember looking at it and going, okay, so even if I'm on the hook for this much, like let's say it's 15 or 20 grand. If I'm on the hook for 15 or 20 grand, I can go back working in accounting and probably make that back in a year and a half, 2 years. Even after living my own life and blah, blah, blah. Even if it all goes wrong, I can just work for a year and a half or 2 years and pay off my fuck up.
Yeah, okay.
So at that point, I kind of decided, if that's the worst that can happen, it's probably not so bad. So that gave me the confidence I needed to go for it, but it came down to understanding my numbers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't invest the time and effort into actually thinking about what it's going to cost them.
And I think for a lot of people, understanding your numbers is understanding the worst thing that can happen. Because for so many of us, the worst thing, the greatest fear is the financial insecurity or unpredictability of it.
But I think it's the fundamental uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen that kills people.
Yeah.
And it's very quick and easy to understand how bad it can go or how good it can go. But it just takes a couple of days of being honest with yourself and working through the numbers.
And understanding your risk register, understanding how you cope with risk. For me, it was only something that I started to understand in the last couple of months, and it's been a massive help understanding that there are certain situations or circumstances that I might be in that won't support my growth physically, personally, or in the business. So that was something that you understood fairly early on.
Yeah, and I came into the business always with the idea that it was a business, that it was never a job. I came in wanting it to be scalable, wanting to be able to grow, but also wanting to be able to like remove myself from the business as quickly as possible. Not because I didn't want to be in the business, but because I wanted to be able to do stuff outside of the business as well.
And with that in mind, with understanding that you were going in to run a business as a personal trainer with a background in accounting, it was very much so a business that you were operating.
Yes.
What did you have to do to get your head around that part of things?
I think a large part of it was just being able to understand my strengths and my weaknesses.
Yeah.
So being very honest with myself and saying, what am I good at, what am I bad at? I knew the training side of things was no problem. I knew I was a very good trainer, and I knew I'd be able to make anyone strong, get anyone moving well. I knew I had the business awareness. I won't say I had the accounting competency, because there's nothing more I hate doing, or there's nothing I hate doing more than like having to actually do my own accounts. It's just a mental block I have from being in the industry for years. But I knew sales and marketing were a major problem for me, and they're the lifeblood of business. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good a trainer you are, it doesn't matter how great a facility you have, or how much you care if you don't have anyone coming in the door to actually train them. And you can talk about referrals all you want, and you can talk about the importance of if you just do a good job, then the business will come, but it's not true. Especially now the market's more competitive in every industry. So unless you know how to sell and market yourself, there's no way your business is going to grow. Once you get that down, then I knew the next step was kind of systemizing things and making sure the place runs like it would run when I'm here, but when I'm not here.
Okay.
And that was all about finding good staff and really investing time and energy into them. And, you know, we've been through a very, not a quick learning process, but definitely a very expedited learning process when it comes to hiring, recruiting, and training. And it's been a massive eye-opener about, like for other personal trainers coming into the industry, about how difficult it is to get started properly. Because people are taught, you know, when you finish personal training school, there's this belief you should have clients coming in because you care. And then when people don't get clients, they realize they don't have cash, and when they don't have cash, they're like, shit, I need cash. So I'll just charge less than everyone else, and then everyone will come to me.
And it's a race to the bottom.
And then it's a race to the bottom. And the one race you never want to win is that race to the bottom, because now you're the cheapest trainer in town. And because you're the cheapest trainer, you have the worst clients.
And this comes back to your risk register, or how you cope with risk. When we are racing our competitors to the bottom, we are struggling to find our income to bring money in. One thing that I encourage a lot of people to try to consider early on when they're setting up their business is to look at the idea of a job bridge. And it's actually one of my idols, Marie Forleo, that first introduced me to the idea. But it's basically a job that you take on board part-time to give you that source of income. She has said on numerous occasions, there's nothing more pathetic than a desperate life coach. There's nothing more pathetic than a desperate anything. When you're constantly blue in the face trying to look for something.
Yeah, like neediness isn't attractive in any sort of situation.
It takes away from the quality of your work. And I think having that bridge job, or that job bridge, will definitely support a person approach their desired niche with a little bit more passion, a little bit more desire, a little bit more authenticity as well.
I think, like, I mean, looking back again, I inadvertently did both of those things, because, like, I spent a good bit of time tutoring in what was Leisure Industry Academy Dublin, which is now Elite Fitness and Performance Academy out of Blackrock. And at the time I was doing it because I enjoyed it. Like, I was doing pretty well off of it as well financially. I certainly didn't need the money, but it was nice to have the money, because it kind of gave me this sense that I could enjoy myself, and that I wasn't slaving away for no income, because every day I went in there, I was just like having fun. So there was that, but also we did a lot of workshops, we did a lot of like weekend events and stuff like that to kind of,
with Refit,
to bridge the income gap that wasn't necessarily there with membership from day one. Like, the core of the business is always going to be membership. It has to be recurring revenue. But we did weekend workshops, squat, bench, deadlift workshops, so many different things like that. One, because I was trying to establish a reputation for it, but two, because the income was really nice as well. So, I mean, you can get caught into this mindset of, I've got to get more members, but there's also other ways you can get more income if you need to bridge that gap.
And then let's pull it back a little bit. You basically did a SWOT analysis on yourself, and you identified 2 weaknesses that I think it's safe to say are now your strengths within the business. So it just goes to show, when you work hard at something, it does happen. And then you identified a way to grow your business that was based off demand, and how many people you had in the gym, and how many more people you needed to fit in. What was that journey like? Did you ever get frustrated by how slow some people perceived it as, or because this is almost your fourth home then, if you consider the boot camp at the very beginning.
Yeah, and then if you consider the second gym we had in Glasnevin for a while, the fifth one.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like our fifth iteration, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I invested a fucking fortune. You know how much I invested, like tens of thousands of euro in learning and personal development, in traveling to Thailand and going to fucking Bali, Orlando.
So sorry.
I know, tough life, right? Just for the record, I went to Bali for 5 days to a business event. It's like 2 days traveling plus 2 days jet lag plus a day of learning. It was lovely, but it was awful. So like a lot of it was just learning how to invest in myself, but the speed at which it happened surprised me, because I thought, you know, I'm investing more, I'm learning more, I'm trying harder, I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm going to kick everyone's ass. Screw this whole 5-year thing, this 6-year thing that everyone talks about, I'll get there in 2.
Yeah.
And I don't really think we could have done it any faster, because it takes that long to build a core following. It takes that long to really dial in the processes, and also to make the mistakes and break the system so you can rebuild the system. So, you know, you see a lot of like, you're going to double your profits in half your working hours in 28 days from my fantastic new online program. You see those claims all the time, but they're just not true. I mean, maybe you'll do it for a month, but then all of a sudden the stress and the maintenance and all of the work that goes into building that will just fall apart and cripple you. Because you can definitely make a lot of money short term, but if you want to have a real sustainable business that grows without you, or that at least grows without you having to spend 24 hours a day working, then there's no way to do it other than to put in the time, make your mistakes, and then actually learn from them and put stuff in place to stop it happening again.
What have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced since opening up the first gym?
It's weird. I don't think there has been any, just in the sense that there's certainly been challenges, but there's been no problems. Like, it's always been a learning experience.
Okay.
What's
been the greatest learning experience?
Okay. I guess I can take it 2 ways. Number one, I think the thing that always resonates and always comes back to me is the idea that the work I'm doing now, I won't see for 6 months. Yeah. So if I get lazy now, like, the gym will still grow for a couple of months, provided I've been working my ass off a couple of months previously. And it's that difference in when you put the work in and when you get the payoff that's such a mindfuck.
I see that in my business as well.
Because you don't like... I really hope that was on camera, because she face planted trying to jump up on the couch. You don't see the payoff until you've forgotten you've done the work. Yeah. And it's really hard to keep doing the work and to keep grinding away when you know you're not going to see a payoff for a long time.
But what does that teach you about working through the hard times or working through the good times? Because there's a lesson there, and for me, that lesson that I learned early on, I had probably one of my biggest ruts in the business within the first year, 6 months out. And I remember learning through you that during those really good times or those really bad times, you keep your head down and you don't stop. And I did that. Unfortunately, 6 months after that rut was probably one of the most successful, well, no, not 6 months, even 4 months. Yeah. Was one of the most successful times I've had with the Better Life Project. But it's really freaking hard.
Yeah.
How did you know? Because at least I had you to look up to. And I had you, because I'm literally 2 years behind you in terms of business. So a lot of what I go through, James is able to look at me at 11 o'clock at night going, sometimes you just have to work late. And I'm sitting there going, yeah. But what did you do? Because you didn't have anyone to look up to.
I think you can certainly take experiences elsewhere in your life and apply them across the business. Okay. So like, I was lucky to come out of powerlifting and know the reason why I'd been successful and why I'd done so well in the sport was because I'd invested hours and days and weeks and months and years into the training sessions that nobody ever saw. Okay. And that it was like 3 or 4 years of consistent training before I ever put up big numbers without missing sessions, putting that as the absolute number one priority of my life at the time.
You all got to take note of that. 3 or 4 years.
So it was... That seems to be the sweet spot where stuff starts to happen. That like after 3 or 4 years of consistent, dedicated work, things start to move, and then like after 10,000 hours, things start to really move. So
I was asked that same question. We had an in-house powerlifting competition over the weekend, and following some of my numbers, I got a good few girls coming up to me asking me how long have I been doing this for. And
6 years.
It was with great pride that I'm able to say, well, I've been training consistently with the barbell for 6 years. And it's after 6 years that I was fortunate enough to be able to pull off the numbers that I did.
Yeah.
But you have to grind it out and be consistent. And
Yeah.
so you learned through powerlifting the importance of being consistent and patient.
And faith as well, like just having faith that the work you're putting in will actually pay off.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of people, they'll chop and change. You see it in the gym a lot. They'll chop from gym to gym or training program to training program, hoping that they'll find the next big thing or that something will just click for them and 3 months later they'll be better off. But like you look at like the guys who are here a long time, like the likes of JP, like he's training with me since like could be like March or April 2012. So he's almost 4 years into it now at this stage, and he's pulling like over 2.5 tons body weight, having never trained before. So it's guys like that that are just showing up year after year, chipping away consistently to win. And what seems to happen is that it's happening in the background, and nobody knows about it, and then all of a sudden it's in your face. So all of a sudden they're overnight successes, but really it's the years of work that it's done it for them.
So there's a lot of people watching this program who are trying to set up a business. And health and fitness in Ireland is an absolutely booming industry.
Yeah.
And there are even personal training schools opening up left, right and centre or becoming more popular as a result. Everyone who becomes a personal trainer is in some way attracted to a lifestyle, to this impression they have of what their life would be like. They're watching this, they're looking at you being successful. Tell them what your biggest learning experiences, challenges, mistakes have been. Because for a lot of people, sometimes you can learn through other people's mistakes, but a lot of people also just need to let mistakes happen and they just need to stand back up again. Because you see too many people go, oh, I wasn't good at that the first time around, so it must mean that I'm not destined to do this. What are you going to tell that person?
Just do it again and keep doing it until it works.
And what have some of your biggest mistakes been?
I don't know if it's even mistakes, but I think learning experiences certainly. Like I've invested a huge amount of time in learning about marketing and learning about sales.
Okay.
And people see a lot of my stuff and they see a lot of my writing, and they go, "Oh my God, James is amazing at this. He must have it so easy, or he must never get it wrong." And I saw Liam Thompson of Internet Fit Pros, the guy who does my website and brilliant copywriter, great marketer. He posted up in his group recently saying, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of my marketing campaigns fail. But the 2 out of 10 that do work are really successful. And it's been the same with everything we've done in the gym. There's been things I've launched and I've thought, oh my God, this is going to fucking kill it. And it just dies a death. Like there was the spelling sale we did recently. Like that was a marketing campaign I invested like 10, 20 hours in, if not more. Just in the prep, never mind the actual production of it.
If I entered that competition, I would have been able to train in RevFit for free for life.
No, it's actually misspelled words, not words you think are misspelled. Yeah. Here's one. But yeah, like, so the stuff I think is going to be amazing. It doesn't always turn out that way. But the stuff that I'm kind of ambivalent about sometimes is the most successful stuff. So what that's taught me is like, if something doesn't work, you've got to just try it again a different way. And you keep trying it, and it's like training as well. I mean, you make a mistake, you think you're going to PR and you don't, so you go back to the drawing board, you put a different cycle together. At the end, you analyze it and you say, what did I do this time that was different to last time, and why has that worked? And eventually you end up with a load of stuff that you can actually just take and put into something that works every time.
What's been the best thing that's happened since you've opened up the first gym or even the boot camp? What's been your most proud moment?
I think it's just hearing stories off people. Like on Saturday night at our barbecue, one of the girls we train, Emma, was saying to me, she was chatting to a lad, like different part of the city. He's training in a gym in that part of the city, and she said where she was training. And at the time, like she said after, she was like, I didn't know like this place had a reputation. I just knew it was close to me, and you guys were really good. And he was telling her about how like there's only a few guys in the city that really give a shit, and I'm one of them. And it's just hearing stories like that makes such a difference. Oh, this tissue's over here in case she cries.
Kids, I need to blow my nose.
So it's stories like that are huge, because being in it every day, it's very easy to lose sight of how much of an impact you're having. And it's very easy to forget that this is going to be the best part of most people's day every day. Like people are spent all day looking forward to training. And because I see, 50, 60, 100 people train every day, it's not that it loses the magic for me, but it's routine for me now. And it's only on test days, it's only on days where somebody stops me and pulls me aside that I realise how grateful I should be for the impact we're having. So I think one of the biggest challenges I have is constantly remembering to check in with myself and be grateful for what we're doing. Because when you're in it, you only really see the problems. And when you get to a standard where everything's running smoothly and everything's really, really good, that becomes like your new set point. And if it isn't always like that, all of a sudden you're down on yourself and you beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, 100%. And with the business over here and the personal lifestyle that people aspire to, who want to set up a business or want to become this new buzzword, lifestyle entrepreneur, felt entrepreneur. No, they're all brilliant and worthy, but I think a lot of the time people do forget about the work, the sacrifices and the commitment. Tell me about what it's like for you trying to build this business. Do you have, because I know a lot of the answers to these questions because we live together, but tell me, for the people that are listening, what's the lifestyle like for you? The routine, the balance, the commitment, the sacrifices?
The first thing I'm going to say is, if people think they can have a great business that affords them a lifestyle without also putting in a great amount of work, they are fucking idiots. Like, anyone who believes that needs to go watch some Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, because he breaks it down so well. It's like, you can't have everything and you can't have the amazing business and the lifestyle without investing a lot of work into it. So anyone who says you can do that is full of shit.
Yeah.
When it comes to my day and my routine, it's regularly irregular. So recently I've got into a very good flow where I'll get up and train early. Like, I'll get up at 10 past, quarter past 5 and be in the gym for 5:45, get a training session done and get to work for 3 or 4 hours after that. And
your secret, you're definitely at your best when you're up early.
Yeah, and when I train in the morning as well.
So much easier to live with as well.
Yeah, like, I've always been able to get up early, but I never considered myself a morning person, if that makes sense. Whereas now, like, I've kind of trained myself into the routine of getting up early. And the great thing about being up so early is that you have like a 3 or 4 hour head start in the day when nobody else is up, which means there's no distractions. There's no notifications on Facebook, there's no emails coming in, there's no phone calls. You're literally just alone to be productive. And that's when I get most of my work done during the day. And for the rest of the day, I probably don't get a lot done, but the amount of work I do get done in that time is insanely productive. So the key to me for productivity and to actually make stuff happen is spend a bit of time like planning my week. What are my 2 or 3 big projects that I'm working on? What do I need to do to get those done? And then understanding the difference between being busy and being productive. So like, I could be busy by like writing a Facebook post that only 20 people are going to see because Facebook now wants you to pay to use the platform. Or I could like spend 4 days writing another ebook on how to get abs. Like, that doesn't do anything to move the business forward. It satisfies my needs to feel like I'm doing something, but I'd much rather...
stop describing my life.
Who's the coach here? I'd much rather do nothing than just do something for the sake of doing something. Because in doing nothing, the ideas brew and you start to think about processes and you start to understand what you actually need to do to get stuff done.
You have started to post a lot of your fit pro tips or a lot of fit pro tips on your personal Facebook page. If you had to pick your top 3 tips that would help a personal trainer just leaving personal training school, what would they be? And you've only got a few minutes because this video, I want to keep this interview nice and short and succinct.
Okay, number 1 is be really, really fucking good at what you do.
Okay.
Because if you're not incredible as a trainer, if you're not incredible at delivering whatever service you promised to deliver somebody, you'll get found out. And when you're found out, all of a sudden you're dead in the water because nobody will come to you.
Okay.
The second is try to give as much as you can in advance. So like, instead of telling people how great you are, show them how great you are.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say, oh, we get all these great results. It's a different thing to show them how you get them. So one thing we always strive for in the gym here is to give our best stuff away for free and to make our free content more valuable than what everyone else charges for.
Yeah.
So the idea being that if you see what we put out there, be it our videos, be it our training guides, our training programs, whatever, you'll see how massively valuable they are up front. And when you see how valuable they are, you'll go, oh my God, what happens if I pay them? And that's what we want. Number 3 is a favourite, and if anyone's following me on social, they'll have seen it before.
Oh, I know what this is. Talk directly to the camera when you say this.
I'm not allowed to say this to Sarah.
Oh my God.
So, number 3 is never, under any circumstances, should you ever, regardless of how desperate you are, go straight to anal. See, even Lizzie doesn't like it. What I mean by that is, Like, you wouldn't walk into a bar and walk up to a lot of girls and be like, hey, can I put it in your ass? Hopefully. Like, you might be like that. Lizzie's obviously getting excited too. And what I mean by that is, hopefully you wouldn't walk up to a girl in a bar and say, hi, I'm James, can I put it in your ass? You might. And if you do it frequently enough, yeah, it might pay off for you. Like, if you talk to 100 girls, one might say yeah. But you can be sure she's probably the dirtiest, most broken down skank in the club. Or she's a strong, independent woman who's empowered by her knees and blah, blah, blah. Skank. So, if you get that sort of girl, that's not the sort of girl you want to keep. And it's the same with them. It's the same with clients. Like, if you're putting out all these like empty promises about transformations and blah, 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 what you're going to get is you're going to get the clients who are very transient, who don't invest long-term in themselves or in you. So, the idea of straight to anal is like you want to build know, like, and trust first. So they need to know who you are and what you do. They have to like you as a brand or as a person, and they have to trust that you know what you're doing. And the easiest way to do that is to do what we were talking about in point number 2, and that is to put out really excellent content. And by putting out the excellent content, you start to indoctrinate them into your beliefs, into how you train people, and into what your gym is all about or what your business is all about. And when they identify with that, and when that resonates with them, they're much more likely to come in and actually take part. It'll be an easier sale because they're already pre-sold, because they've identified themselves as somebody who believes what you believe and wants to solve the problem your way. And it'll also build a longer relationship, because the chances are they're going to like you as a person and just be sounder to deal with as a result. So you got to be excellent at what you do. You got to show people you're excellent at it, and you've got to make some deposits in their emotional bank account before you ask for something in return.
So if you summarize that, you're basically, and it's such sound advice, and something that I've been applying for as long as I've been in business as well. You're basically, what you need to do is you need to invest all the money that you have into yourself and your business. You need to give away everything that you want to charge for free. And you need to not ask for money for a period of time before you have that know, like, and trust factor. For a lot of business owners setting up, that's a really, really hard thing for them to do. One of the great things about what you do is that you communicate this advice in a really accessible way.
Yeah.
It's all very well and good for some coaches out there to help you 10x your business, but if you're lacking in confidence or self-belief, if you don't even know the basics about how to set up, open, run, and manage a gym, that's hard advice to give.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Why should they take it? Why should they follow you?
It's funny when you put it like that, because it does sound utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not ask for money, give your best stuff away, and then spend money you don't have on making yourself better to do all that again? But it's like, it's a trust thing and it's a faith-based thing. Like, you've got to believe that it's going to come around and work for your advantage. So like, why should they believe it's true? I mean, why should they believe me? Because it's true, because it's exactly what we've done, and it's what everyone else who's successful has done too. How do they develop enough belief in themselves to actually go and do that? A lot of the time it's learning off of other people and having someone guide them down the path that they're trying to walk down. You know, because at the end of the day, they're going to make mistakes, they're going to create problems for themselves, and the longer they wait to make the mistakes, the more it's going to cost them. So if you can invest, you know, a couple of €1,000 up front, I mean, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. Like, when you don't have £100 to invest in, you know, a landing page yet, it's a fortune. But somehow you have to max out a credit card if you have to. You'll find a way to pay it back. If you can invest up front like that, you're going to save so much down the line. And I think the reason why we've been so successful here is that we've invested so much money in learning from other people's mistakes that we haven't made any massively costly ones of our own yet. I'm sure we will at some point. But if we made the mistakes now that we made on a smaller scale, then the cost of the mistake at scale would sink you very quickly.
Some of the mistakes that you have done a very good job of calling me out on that have helped me build good habits have been around how I use social media. And I would get stuck in the trap quite often of updating my Facebook page with a lengthy, inspiring post, hoping to transform lives, but Facebook algorithms mean that people aren't ever going to see that post. So what advice would you give to people who are using social media? Because we see a lot of trainers or health and fitness enthusiasts trying to create that content, number two, that you're talking about, but it really is just, well, this is what I had for my breakfast, and this is my workout, and oh, look, here are my abs. I have 3 rules that I use for my own personal use and for any idea makers or startups that I work with. And if it's not at least 30% inspiring, 30% empowering, and 30% educational, don't post it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone?
I think the first thing to recognize is that Facebook don't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about how much you want your post to be out there. What they care about is how much their users will engage with it. So the reason why you see certain people having such good engagement is because they post things that's highly relevant to the type of people that are on social media at that time. So like ab shots on Instagram get shared a lot because people like ab shots, and Instagram's photo based. Like with Facebook specifically, and with the other platforms now as well, they're becoming pay to play. So if you're a business and you want to put your content in front of people, the only way to do it is by promoting your posts or sponsoring your posts. And over the last year or two, there's been massive outcry about that because people are like, oh, but it used to be free, or it should be free, and why are Facebook charging? Facebook are charging for the same reason you're charging, because you're a business. And because Facebook can deliver massive value to you if you play by Facebook's rules. People bitch about them, they moan about not being able to say certain things. You know, tough shit. Facebook has the attention of people, it has the eyeballs, it has the most detailed targeting mechanisms you'll find anywhere. And you can use that to your advantage if you're just stop being such a tight ass. Like, if you know how much it costs to get a client, if you know how much they're going to pay you down the road, why would you not invest at least a part of that in bringing them into your business? But people are too busy playing the short game. They're too busy trying to hustle their next client rather than building a long-term sustainable business.
So what sort of content specifically in the health and fitness industry for personal trainer is useful?
It depends on who your market is. So the first step is you've got to know who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
And when you know who you're speaking to, like the age, the interests, say the sex of the person, then you need to know what conversation they're having with themselves. So know how to speak to them, know how to speak to them, how they speak to themselves. Because when you can enter the conversation they're having, when inside of their own head, when you know what they're telling themselves, when you know what their beliefs about fitness are, when you know about the things they've tried and failed with and why they've tried and failed with that, then you can start to communicate why your way is better or how your specific solution solves their problem.
Yeah. So the best content is when you can say something that fixes their problem. You've said this before, it's a case of, what did you say, ego versus bank account? Yeah,
so when it comes to like social posting, you see a lot of people try to build ego while nobody tries to build bank account. So building ego is putting stuff out about you. It's about how great you are and how much experience you have, and I'm a personal trainer with like 4 years experience, I've studied here, here and here, we train this many people. Versus looking at it from the perspective of, at RevFit, we look after people like Jane. Jane came to us with this and this problem. Here's how we helped her solve it. Like, that's more about the person you're talking to rather than about you, because nobody gives a shit about you or what you care about. They care about what they believe in. Like, they have their problems. Your problems don't keep them up at night. Their problems do. So that's what you're trying to solve.
Yeah. What one thing have you done over the last 4 years that's helped to make your business and life awesome? Aside from
obviously. I want to say like 5 or 6 different things, but if I could only say one, it would have to be just being around people who are on the same journey as me and being a little bit ahead of them and being a little bit behind them. And I think it's important to be ahead of people and behind people at the same time, because if you're always behind people, you never see how far you've come. You're only ever chasing somebody else. But when you have a few people behind you, you can look back and you can go, oh, I remember being there. I actually have come quite far. And it's not about being better than them or rubbing it in their face. It's just about recognizing and appreciating that you are developing and you are growing. So having some sort of mastermind group or having a close network of people like you that are improving at the same rate or along the same path has made a huge difference. I've done everything from creating one, like we had coffee mornings for a while, that just, it fizzled out for various reasons. It just turned into a moan fest. So rather than it being like a good building up thing, it was a chance for people to come and vent. And like, there's enough negativity without creating a group for negativity. So I very quickly stopped attending those because I don't want to be around negativity. Number 2 is, if you can't create a group, join a group. And if you have to pay to join that group, pay to join the group, because you're going to see many times your investment back off at the end of it.
Brilliant. If people wanted to find out more information about you, I almost forgot what I was going to say there. The best place would be to jump onto Revolution Fitness, the website, so revolutionfitness.ie. RevFit is on Facebook, Revolution Fitness.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
It's like Revolution Fitness Ireland on Facebook.
Revolution Fitness Ireland on
Yeah.
Facebook. On Instagram. Do you want to do this part?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the best way to find me on social is to open up the internet and I'll find you.
It's true.
Yeah, so like if you want me personally, facebook.com/hanley.james, Hanley. I respond to pretty much all friend requests unless you're obviously a fake profile just trying to send me nudes. Personally, you can email me on james@revolutionfitness.ie. Might take a couple of days, but I will get back to you. On Instagram, I'm at James_RevFit, I think. But certainly on Instagram, the gym is at RevFit. And then on Snapchat, james.revfit gets me.
Awesome. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Better Life Project TV. And don't forget to check out next week's episodes where I will bring you another incredible guest to help make your awesome business and life happen. Before I go, a very quick note. At various stages throughout this interview, you have seen myself and James's beautiful little dog called Lizzie, or Princess Lizzie, as I like to call her. For anyone who follows both myself or James on Facebook, you'll know that we rescued Lizzie about a year ago from an incredible rescue centre called Dogs 8 out in Ballymun. I just want to take a very quick note to tell you guys how awesome it is to rescue a dog. Now, all dogs need homes. All dogs are beautiful, whether or not you get them from a paid site or a rescue site. But for me personally, rescuing a dog, especially a beautiful little Staffordshire Bull Terrier like Lizzie, has been one of the most incredible things that James or I have done, and we wholeheartedly recommend it and encourage everyone and anyone who is thinking of getting a dog to rescue and to open up your hearts to how incredible Staffordshire Bull Terriers are as well. Again, if you're following either myself or James, you'll know that we respond quite openly to any sort of criticism or negative stereotype that these poor beautiful dogs are, I guess, the victim of. So open up your heart to rescuing and open up your heart to Staffordshire Bull Terriers, to Staffies as well. And for anyone who's looking for an incredible place to rescue their dog, we recommend Dogs 8. That's where we got Lizzie almost a year ago. Guys, thank you so much for checking in, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Ciao, ciao.
Toodles.